The death of the dollar. That is one of the more popular memes, if you will. I love "if you will." I got that from Dusty Rhodes. He's still working. He would say, "if you will." I don't think the dollar is going to die anytime soon. And I'm going to give you my reasoning. Number one, I don't see what's next. I don't see who's going to take it over. The euro was, 15 years ago, it looked like the euro was going to do it. It was a little scary. I mean, I've even heard on some of these internet conspiracy theory type shows, and it makes sense that that was part of the reason that Saddam Hussein was taken down, because he tried to use the euro to sell his oil. But that didn't work out. And I know there's the yuan is being used on some occasions to buy oil. But I don't see that happening. The other thing that I wanted to say is, according to what I understand, this is from Andrew Geis, who's a really sharp guy. He said that after the war, Roosevelt, just when he was about to go, he was in his last days of being alive, actually, he made a deal with Saudi Arabia that he would protect them, that he would do whatever he had to do to protect them. All he asked, and he would pay, and they would pay all the debts. All they ask is for, if you buy oil, you buy the dollar. So the oil is backing the dollar. So these people that say that gold is not being backed, that the dollar is not backed by anything, it is backed by something. It's backed by oil. And it's also backed by the might of the U.S. military that's in 130 different countries. So that's the first reason I'm saying. I think that the dollar is backed by the military might of the U.S. Army, and it's backed by oil. These people say that it's not backed by anything, just don't understand history. The other interesting thing that I've learned in this, there's a gentleman he's actually an anarchist. He wrote a book called Debt, and I don't remember, he was a professor at Harvard. He lost his professorship. I think he's a professor out of some school in England. But he actually said that he went back and studied this, where, they had this whole thing that they tell you in Economics 101, that there's this barter system that gets set up, that you have 40 chickens and I got a cow, and we change my 40 chickens for your cow. And he said he looked back at cultures all over the world and he'd never found that. In fact, what he found was that even going back thousands of years, they had used credit systems. There had been a system of credit for dollars. That this whole thing about the goldsmith, that's something that they talk about, but that's actually a system of credit too, where the goldsmith uses the credit. So actually that was just one part of it. That's just one thing that had happened, where you had the goldsmith, where it's happened. But there had been a system, even in Babylon, there was a system of credit with weed, I believe. But credit has been used for the dollar for hundreds of years, and this whole system that is backed by gold is just erroneous. It's not true. So these gold bugs, I think they make a point that, gold will go up if there's a dollar, and that's a protection. I think there's something to that. But the very fact that we've got this explanation that gold backs the dollar is erroneous. It's never really happened. So a lot of their conjectures and a lot of their arguments are based on logic, or not based on human history and what's been happening. So that's another reason that I don't think that the dollar is doomed. But the main reason I don't think the dollar is, I talked about what comes next. The last currency to die within, not my lifetime, but it happened within my mother's lifetime. It happened after 1940. So it's within my historical perspective, was the pound. When my mother was born in December of 1940, the pound was the reserve currency. And the pound collapsed. I mean, it's interesting that in the late 1960s, the IMF bailed out England. That's how far they went down. So at that time, England had a very expensive war. It had a very expensive empire. and they collapsed. And who took them over? The United States of America. The United States of America had not been through 2 world wars. It had not had a very expensive war and it hadn't had its capital bombed to daylights like London had been. It hadn't been beat up. It was fairly fresh. I mean, Russia, for instance, lost 30 million people during World War II. We didn't lose 30 million people. I mean, we lost people and there was a lot of sacrifices, but we were in good shape, and the rest of Europe, China, Russia, they were all just beat to hell. So no wonder we took over, and we're still in charge. And we have expanded our empire since I became 40 years old, since 2000. Since 2000, the 9/11 thing happened, and a whole war took off. We invaded Afghanistan. We've invaded Iraq. We've invaded Libya. We've taken over all kinds of new territory. I don't see that the American empire being in 130 different countries, I don't see that empire collapsing while it's expanding. It doesn't make sense to me. So I don't think that these people who talk about the dollar dying and all these fearmongers, I don't think they understand history. And I think either they're being disingenuous and they know all the stuff I'm talking about, or they're stupid. I don't know which one it is, but, for instance, Mark Farber will talk about the system needing to be reset. I don't think he's stupid. I just think he's overly influenced by his heritage being of German type of descent. He's from Switzerland. I don't know if he's necessarily a German, but he still remembers he has some memory of of what happened in Weimar Germany, where the whole currency collapsed. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But he will not. He hasn't said. He says there's going to be a stock market crash, but he has not said that there was going to be a death of the dollar. And he just says to buy gold just to be on the safe side. He doesn't say that's all you should buy. So I leave him out of that, and I leave Jim Rogers out of it. But I wonder if some of them know better. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on the thing, and thanks for listening.